family members who've been impacted by gun violence met in Aurora yesterday with Democratic presidential candidate Michael Bloomberg. But one father didn't get an invitation, and he wonders why. It's a law forcing the state to enforce another law. Mental health providers say what's currently on the books isn't getting people in for care quickly enough. Another year of Vision Zero, another increase in traffic deaths, leaving us once again to wonder, is the program working? And a Friday wouldn't be complete without good news, and we found it in a rather surprising place. I'm Steve Stager, in for Kyle Clark. This is Next. It's a club no one wants to be invited to join. Friends and family of those killed by guns. A group of them met yesterday with Democratic candidate Mike Bloomberg in Aurora. But one person was left out, and he talked to our Marshall Zellinger.
I don't accept that kids being murdered at school is something that we should be used to.
Democratic presidential candidate Mike Bloomberg talked about school shootings at his End Gun Violence Town Hall in Aurora, but did not include Colorado's most recent family to not have their child come home from school because of a school shooting.
Not being included didn't particularly hurt me one way or another. I just thought that it was very suspect and odd, purposely planned that way.
Do you think he wants to hear what you have to say?
I don't know, probably not. I mean, I'm pretty opinionated, and many of my opinions have been arming school staff, not teachers per se, but doing things that are radically different that we haven't done in the past. That's not popular with some, but I don't think it's a reason to blacklist someone and keep them out of the conversation.
My friend, Mike Bloomberg.
Democratic State Representative Tom Sullivan helped organize the event and reached out to Castillo this morning. In a phone call with me, Sullivan said, "Make sure he blames me. The story that no one wanted to hear from him, that's not true. The story is no one knew." Castillo has shown up where the politicians are. He's attended the School Safety Committee hearings at the Capitol this summer and Douglas County Commissioner hearings. But he does not aspire to be the next parent of a shooting victim to be a lawmaker like Senator Rhonda Fields and Sullivan.
I'm not interested in any type of political career. I'm a devastated father that wants to see change.
One of the topics Castillo wants dealt with at the state legislature is gun storage at home. He believes the storage of the guns used in the STEM shooting was flimsy and gun owners should be more responsible. One part of Bloomberg's agenda from yesterday, Steve, was requiring secure storage of firearms. That's at least one thing they could have agreed on if he was at that meeting yesterday.
It's interesting because Mr. Castillo has been so visible since this tragedy. We've seen him all over the place. The question really is, does he need to advocate to be at an event like this?
It's the difference between being a very active and proactive person and seeing on the news, hey, this event's happening, I'm going to go make some noise, versus more passive and, hey, I'll go if I'm invited because I should be part of the same group as these other people.
Marshall Zellinger, thank you. Colorado Republican Representative Kimmy Lewis has died after her third battle with cancer. Her family says she was at home on her Los Animas County ranch surrounded by family and friends when she passed this morning. Lewis focused on agriculture and property rights for the 9 rural counties she represented on the Eastern Plains. Her family describes her as a strong, passionate woman whose legacy will live on in the way of life she fought to protect. Closing the gaps so people can get mental health care is awfully complicated. State legislatures had to pass a law to try to enforce another law that's already on the books. Our Anusha Roy takes a look at why state leaders think this time around they will be more efficient.
The idea is to make sure mental health care is treated in the same way as physical health care.
And see a psychologist or a therapist, I shouldn't have to wait more than 7 days.
Dr. Sarah Davidon with Mental Health Colorado said this might feel familiar because there are several laws about this dating back to 1997 in Colorado, then reinforced by the feds in 2008. And here we are in 2019.
Remember those laws that we have in place? We really meant them.
And state leaders are trying again.
When you're not held accountable, then things can slip.
Both Democratic Representative Lisa Cutter and Dr. Davidon knew it wasn't working because of what they were hearing.
We're hearing about people who are waiting 60, 90, 120 days in order to get in to see a provider, and that's not acceptable.
This law is asking insurance companies to build up a network of psychologists, therapists, and behavioral health specialists so there's more help in Colorado starting in 2020. That way, patients can find a doctor within a 30 to 60-mile radius of where they live. State legislators wanted to give insurance companies enough time to comply so the new law would actually work. They were also specific about what happens if it doesn't.
If they don't comply, rate increases can be turned down.
It's that enforcement that has Representative Cutter optimistic that this new law will do what past laws couldn't.
We'll be watching closely at the legislature to make sure that it's actually happening the way it's supposed to happen.
So here's how they're going to actually do that. Insurance companies will be reporting to the state in the next couple of months about that progress, and the state legislature is going to be getting their first update in June. They also told us that there was a website where people can start sending in complaints if they aren't getting the care that they need. So today we asked the biggest insurance companies in Colorado, how are you going to expand this network in that time frame? So far we haven't heard back yet, Steve, but of course we're going to be passing that along to people as we're getting those details.
And of course, so many of these people are wondering, you know, it's been so long, these laws have been on the books. How quickly is something like this going to change?
Yeah, well, the one thing that Representative Cutter said is going to happen as soon as January 2020 is that you should be able to go in to get a mental health checkup, really in the same way that we've been going in to get a physical. That also means the copay should be about the same, all or a very small amount.
Nusha Roy, thank you. So as the city works to make our roads safer, Denver police says one of its own officers hit a pedestrian today. Police say the officer was turning left onto Bannock from Spear this morning and hit a woman while walking in the crosswalk. They say she wasn't seriously hurt. They are still investigating that whole incident. They haven't determined whether or not that officer will be cited. The city of Denver has been hitting its Vision Zero program hard this year. They want to reduce the number of people killed on Denver's roads. But unfortunately, those numbers are doing the opposite. They're actually going up. 67 people have been killed on Denver streets between January and November. 3 of them were bicyclists and 20 of them were people who were walking. The rest were motorcycles or on motorcycles or in cars. Now that number has already surpassed 2018's number. 61 people were killed last year. This year, officials have reduced speed limits on the city streets, added more protected bike lanes and new bike and scooter parking areas. Denver Public Works says it did an analysis on the roads where it reduced speed limits so it can do a before and after comparison to see if that helped. The plan to do the after assessment beginning in the middle of next year. 37-year-old Alexis Bounds was one of those cyclists killed. The mother was killed by a careless driver at the corner of Bayard and South Marion Parkway in July. That man, David Anton, the driver, pleaded guilty to careless driving, resulting in death today. Bounds' mother went to court today to be a voice on behalf of her daughter to make more drivers be aware.
I know it was an accident, and I feel for the man and his family, but I have to think of my daughter, and my daughter is telling me, Mom, help me, do something for me. Don't let this happen to another family.
Anton will be sentenced next month. The street where Bounds was killed has been the center of controversy for months. That area is getting a protected bike lane, possibly as soon as next summer after the city finalizes its plans. But some neighbors don't want it, saying it will ruin their historic parkway. One day after Park County Jail says its budget could be cut because of a decrease in inmates there, the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office is saying that they will have to start letting inmates out because of budget cuts there. Sheriff Jeff Schrader says the jail is losing $5.5 million. So it is closing one floor of the detention center. Starting next month, the jail will begin releasing inmates early to reduce the jail population. Sheriff Schrader says those decisions will be made each morning. They'll try to release as many inmates or as few inmates as possible. Inmates who have served at least 50% of their sentences will get out early, starting with the ones who have served the most time. It is that time of year when people are setting up camp outside the Stranahan's Whiskey Distillery in Denver. Last year, you asked a very good question about why they are allowed to camp on the sidewalk for a week, but people who are homeless are not. No one complained, but this year Stranahan's wasn't going to take any chances. So it got a permit from the city this year to secure zoning on its property for 130 campsites. Once those fill up, people can still line up on the sidewalk, but they can only have a chair and a blanket there. No tents or camping gear.
That includes sleeping bags.
A gift can bring joy far beyond the season.
Just so meaningful, and I know the impact of it is not just for the holidays.
Our good news this Friday comes from Wheat Ridge, in a place you might not expect to find any. And how much food gets wasted in a school cafeteria. Students in Boulder experimented and couldn't believe what they found. Next.
Coloradans who run out of space in the freezer decide to get a little creative. That doesn't always work, but it's the thought that counts. So next viewer Denise shared this last year, or about the year that her younger brother Larry hosted Christmas. Someone brought an ice cream cake over for the dessert, but the freezer was full with all the Christmas stuff. So Larry put the cake out on the patio in the shade. He figured the temperature is below freezing, it'll be fine. When time came for dessert, they found out that the cake had melted. They tell that story every year. So you can share your holiday fails to next@9news.com as we continue to count down towards Christmas, Hanukkah, and New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, all those days. You can also use the hashtag HeyNext.
Less than 2 hours to go before the Parade of Lights. Kim and Tom have already left the studio and they're headed out there, and weather this year is going to be fantastic. Temperatures are going to be in the low 30s, dropping into the upper 20s by 10. We'll have mostly clear skies out there. This is the start of a very mild weekend. If you can't make tonight's parade and you want to go tomorrow, highs are going to reach 58 degrees. It'll be beautiful. The Parade of Lights starts at 6 p.m. on Saturday. A little cooler Sunday with a high of 52. And then on Monday, we've got some changes headed our way. Temperatures back in the 30s with a chance for some flurries in the morning. This system hits the mountains first, and by Sunday night, we could have more than 4.5 inches of snow, new snow around Vail, and anywhere between 2 and 5 inches of snow along the Continental Divide. Denver, we're not going to see that much snow out of this, but it might be an icy start to Monday morning's drive, and after that quick cool off, we are going to be warming back up into the 50s by Wednesday. But enjoy the weekend, and if you're heading out, enjoy the Parade of Lights.
The World Wildlife Fund released a study yesterday that found food waste from U.S. cafeterias could total up to 530,000 tons of food per year. Their goal was to get great reductions of waste with the help of students. Our Byron Reed shows us how one middle school in Boulder is helping out.
Sometimes the biggest solutions start with the smallest idea.
Grab what you want to get, don't grab what you don't need.
Nia Jaimes and Samra Redzik are 8th graders at Casey Middle School in Boulder and noticed their cafeteria food waste was becoming an issue.
The food, they barely touch it. And, well, it's just that thing that frustrates when people don't have food out there.
When they eat, they don't really think about how much they're wasting until they actually see the numbers. And then when you see the numbers, you're like, oh.
The Boulder Valley School District decided to participate in the Food Waste Warriors program. Started in 9 cities across the U.S., the program lasted for 6 months, measuring how much school food and milk ended up in the trash.
So it was somewhere around 50 pounds of food waste for compost for each lunch.
The results of the studies found food waste in schools nationwide could amount to an estimated 530,000 tons per year, costing as much as $9.7 million per day.
So about 1/3 of our food is wasted on average, and most of that ends up in the landfill, and it does not, when it decomposes, it releases greenhouse gases.
The district says the goal was to get students to start thinking about how to reduce what they throw away.
This was brought to us by students. The students care deeply about issues of environmental sustainability, reducing waste.
Mia and Samra hope their idea catches on with their classmates to help make a big impact in reducing school waste.
We have to start being more open-minded about how we eat.
For Next, I'm Byron Reed.
According to the study, participating schools averaged 39.2 pounds of food waste and 19.4 cartons of milk waste per student per year. Over the course of the audit period, schools saw reductions in their food waste on average of 3%. Good news can be found in the most unlikely places, like a place in Wheat Ridge where bad news usually drives the conversation. That's next. Family Tree, a nonprofit in Wheat Ridge, provides services to people affected by homelessness, domestic violence, and child abuse. Issues difficult to find good news in, but that's where we found our good news today.
It gives me hope when parents break the cycle of abuse, when they identify that they want their children to have something better than they had. It's good news that happens every day as an individual chooses to ask for help, leaves a home that may not be safe, and comes to Family Tree Roots of Courage or simply makes a call. Working here at Family Tree is part of who I am. Our mission is to help people overcome child abuse and neglect, domestic violence, and homelessness. So one of the things that's unique about Family Tree is that we are able, with our adoptive family program, to truly match a donor with a family.
It just feels really good to give back. It feels really good to give people joy.
Can you carry that one, and maybe I'll push this one?
Several years ago, a coworker did an Adopt a Family program, and I thought it was just a really great way to give back. It was good news in my life. Actually just welcomed a baby in May, and I feel very grateful.
Right now, particularly, a lot of the families that we are needing donors for are asking more so for gift cards. Particularly many of our domestic violence survivors are asking for that because they've never had control to be able to buy gifts for their children. Giving power to our family to be able to meet their wish lists when typically on a day-to-day basis they are surviving.
Family Tree says they still have 11 families to adopt if you'd like to spread some of your own good news. I'm heading over to the Parade of Lights. See you guys tonight at 8 o'clock on Channel 9.